Saraswati Srimad, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nichilila Pavishta Paramahansa Srila Gaurkishodas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Nichilila Pavishta Sachidananda Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai, Nichilila Pavishta Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Gauri Vedanta Charya Srila Baladev Vijabhushan Prabhu Ki Jai, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai, Srila Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Chaya Ki Jai, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Sri Diva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Sri Sri Damodar Roy Ramananda Shri Gaur Parshvini Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai, Srivas Thakur Ki Jai, Shri Antadeep Mayapur Shrimantadeep Kudumadeep Matadeep Koladeep Matadeep Tanadeep Matadumadeep Vipamakrishnadeep Dham Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Gogovardhan Dwara Siddharama Shri Raj Mandala Ki Jai, Shri Shamakund Radhakund Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Yogamaya Purnamasi Ki Jai, Gopishwar Mahadev Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudasan Shakriti Ki Jai, Shri Purushottam Chaitra Ki Jai, Srila Bhagavan Ki Jai, Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai, Gantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Gantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi
Hari Hari Bo Jai Nitai Jai Gaur. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saragana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Tishe Nama Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalau Kalmashanashaya Janava Pataye Nama Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jayatam Suruto Pangor Mama Mandamater Gati Matsarvasva Padam Bhojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpa Drumadha Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Preshtalibhi Sevyamano smarami Shiman rasarasarambi Vamshivata tatakstitaha Karshana Venu Swanair Gopir Gopinata Shriyestunaha Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshay Kshiptascha Kamadi Taranga Madhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrindenu Maste Charanarvindam Vrindai Tulsi Devyai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Asadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Asadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Asadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad, Paramahansa Asto Tarasata, Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, that I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad, Paramahansa Asto Tarasata, Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad, Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I offer my unlimited Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga, and especially on this transcendental appearance day of Srila Srivas Thakur, the incarnation of Sri Narada Muni in Gaur Lila. We offer unlimited Dandavat Pranams at his divine lotus feet and pray for his causeless mercy. And my Dandavat Pranams to all of the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So, there was a very short Katha from Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj. Very, very short. So I've decided to read about Srivas Pandit from Srila Bhakti Balabhatirtha Goswami Maharaj's fantastic book called The Associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there's quite extensive, elaborate information, nectar for us to hear from that. So first of all, who is Srivas Pandit? That's going to be told to us here, who he is in reality. For eternity. But we know who he is, that he's Sri Narada Muni. And who is Sri Narada Muni?
Narada Gopi.
That's true. Narada Muni, in his original form in Braj, then what is his identity there? Yeah. He is Krishna's most intimate, Priyanarmasaka, Madhumangal, Sri Madhumangal. And so we can see that everywhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and in most cases, so many cases of very great personalities, Sri Narada Muni is coming and having some discussion with them, preaching to them, uplifting them. He's the Guru of Gurus. He's even the Guru of the incarnation of the Lord who appeared in this material world to give the Vedic knowledge just prior to the Kali Yuga. That is Sri Krishna Dvaipayana Vedavyas. He is a disciple of Narada. Srimad Bhagavatam would not have occurred, would not have manifested if Sri Narada Rishi had not come and enlightened Srila Vyasadeva, inspired him. And Narada Rishi is the first actual narration in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. First canto, his discussion with Vyasadeva and his narration of his own story to Vyasadeva of his previous life, yes, as the son of a maidservant. That is the first upakyan, the first discussion in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are introduced first of all to Narada and Vyasadeva. So in Gaur Lila, that very same personality has appeared as Sri Srivas Thakur, one of the members of the Panchatattva. Panchatattva is very important. They are the gurus for the entire universe. Those 5 personalities, and they are 5 manifestations of Krishna. And Narada Rishi as Srivas Thakur is in the category of Shakti also, as a pure devotee. 3 of them, they are Shaktiman. The other 2 are Shakti. Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, they are in the category of Shaktiman Tattva. No, it's the tape part here.
Oh.
It's not holding. Hari. Well, it's kind of holding. Okay. So we're going to read about that, and we'll see what unique relationship Sri Srivas Pandit Thakur had with Sri Nimai Pandit, and what role he played, such an important role in Gaur Lila. So first I'm reading the verse that is being quoted by Srila Bhakti Bhagavatirtha Maharaj, and it's from the Gaur Ganodesha Deepika, which of course is the book written by who? Yes, where he's revealing so many of the identities of all the transcendental associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what their identity is in Krishna Lila. I have to do some first aid on this.
It's not that you twisted?
No, this screw got stripped
Yeah.
on like day 5.
Oh no.
The main thing is here, that it has to hold there. Yeah, okay. So the verse reads as follows. Shrivasa Pandito Diman Yat Pura Narado Muni Parvatakyo Munivaro Ya Asin Narada Priya. Sri Rama Pandita Shriman Tatkanishta Sahodara. Nam Nam Bika Vraje Datri Stanya Datri Stitapura Saiveyam Malini Namni Shrivasa Grihini Mata. So, in this verse, 3 different personalities are being mentioned. Shrivas is the same Narada who plays such an important part in Krishna's Leela. Narada Muni's friend, Parvat Muni, appeared as Srivasa's younger brother, Ramai. Srivasa's wife, Malini Devi, was Krishna's wet nurse in Braja, named Ambika. So that's the information we have. Now comes the section describing Panchatattva. We can all say this verse together. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. I pay obeisances to the Supreme Lord Krishna, who has appeared in 5 aspects: as a devotee, as the expansion of a devotee, as the incarnation of a devotee, as a pure devotee, and as the devotional energy. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments, quote, "The Supremely Potent is revealed in 5 different manifestations according to his desire to experience 5 different pastimes. Ontologically, there is no difference between them. They are one truth expressed in 5 varieties. Thus, Sri Gauranga, Sri Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Sri Gadadhar, and Srivas, and the other devotees are ontologically non-different from one another. Nevertheless, that one truth is manifest as a devotee, a bhakta rupa, and the expansion of a devotee, the incarnation of a devotee, the energy of a devotee, and the pure devotee, according to the desire to relish different tastes of divine relationship. Of these 5 truths, the Supreme Lord himself, the son of Nanda, takes on the devotional mood to become Bhakta Rupa. So when we say the verse, Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam, Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam, is referring to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, Krishna. Bhakta Rupa. He has now become the form of a devotee, Bhakta Rupa. Yes. So he takes on the devotional mood to become Bhakta Rupa. His full expansion, which is called the Swayam Prakash, Balaram, he takes on the devotional mood and he appears as Bhakta Swarupa, Nityananda. Then the Purusha avatar, Mahavishnu, takes on the devotional mood and he appears as the Bhakta avatar, incarnation of a devotee, Advaita Acharya. These 3 are all Prabhus with capital P. That is, they are Vishnu Tattva. The devotional energy, Bhakta Shakti, and the pure devotee, Shuddha Bhakta, are classified as energies of Vishnu Tattva, which are considered non-different because of their dependent relationship to it. So that is the quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So the devotional energies, they are Gadadhar, means Bhakta Shakti come. They are Gadadhar, Swarup Damodar, Ramananda Roy, etc. And the pure devotees include Srivas and others who are in the moods of friendship or servitude. Srivas is thus a member of the Panchatattva, and you can't get more VIP than that. Now the next section is titled Srivas Pandit's Origins. Srivas Pandit hailed from Shilet. He later came to live in Navadvip, where he made an immense contribution to Gauranga Lila. From the Chaitanya Bhagavat and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we learn that Srivas had 3 brothers in Navadvip. They were named Sri Ram Pandit, Sri Pati Pandit, and Sri Kanta or Sri Nidhi Pandit. All 4 were participants in Mahaprabhu's Leela. The Gaudiya Vaishnav Abhidhan cites Prem Vilas, which is from Jagadananda Pandit. It is citing Prem Vilas in saying that Srivas's father was a Vedic Brahmana of the name Sri Jaladhar Pandit. Srivas was the second of 5 sons. The eldest son was named Sri Nalina Pandit, who had a daughter named Narayani. Yes. Narayani's husband was named Vaikunta Das Vipra. Narayani's husband died while she was pregnant with Vrindavan Das, the author of the Chaitanya Bhagavat. She left her husband's house in Kumarahata, Halisahar, and came to live with Srivas in Navadvip. Srivas and Nimai Pandit. During his student life, Nimai would engage Gadadhar and Mukunda and other devotees in debate. First, defeating all their arguments, and then showing how they could be proven. The devotees were astonished at his prowess, and they thought that his learning would bear fruit only if he became a devotee of Krishna. And Nimai would pay obeisances to devotees such as Srivas whenever he saw them, and they in turn would bless him, saying, "May you have devotion to Krishna." One day Srivas Pandit was out walking when he encountered Nimai on the street. He said, "People study in order to become devotees of Krishna. What is the use of all their studies if they don't become devotees? Don't waste your time. Start worshipping Krishna as soon as possible." Srivas told to Nimai. Mahaprabhu felt great joy upon hearing such words from the mouth of his own devotee, and he answered, "You are a devotee. By your mercy, I will surely have devotion for Krishna someday." Even though they could not help but be attracted to Nimai, the devotees were unable to recognize him as their own worshipable Lord due to the force of his Yogamaya Leela Shakti. But this is a most astonishing and attractive pastime. Now his next section is Nimai becomes a devotee. When Mahaprabhu returned from Gaya, he began to display all the symptoms of one who is intoxicated with love of God. But Sachi Mata became terrified, thinking that it was madness. When Srivas came near him, Mahaprabhu said, "Everyone thinks that I have gone crazy. What do you think has happened to me?" And then Srivas laughed and he answered, "It's good that you ask. If your humors have become disturbed, that means like the life airs, then I want the same for myself. I see that a great mood of devotion has invaded your body. Krishna has been merciful to you. A relieved Mahaprabhu embraced Srivas and said, if you too had said that I was going mad, I would have drowned myself in the Ganga. That's a quote from Chaitanya Bhagavat. When Mahaprabhu instituted the loud chanting of the holy names in his own house and in that of Srivas's house, then all the atheistic neighbors began to complain that they were losing sleep because of the noise. They looked for ways to counter the movement, and they even started false rumors that the king would soon come to punish the devotees. The impressionable Srivas Pandit believed these stories, and he was filled with anxiety. He began to worship Nrsingadev for protection. Understanding that Srivas was afraid, the Lord, who takes away the distress of his devotees, went to his house. He kicked open the door, and he says, who are you worshipping? Who are you meditating on? He whom you are worshipping is standing before you. Look, I will save the righteous and destroy the wicked. You should worry no longer. So saying, he sat down in the heroic posture, it's called Vira Asana, and he revealed the divine form of Nrsinga, holding the conch, discus, club, and lotus. When Srivas saw this extraordinary manifestation of the Lord, he was overcome with feelings of love, and he began to recite hymns of praise. And Mahaprabhu was pleased with Srivas's recital and told him to call his wife and family members to see his divine form. He gave his prasad to Narayani and showed his mercy to her by making her utter the holy name. Just as the devotee is dear to the Lord is also dear to his devotee. Now, next section, Nityananda's Vyas Puja. When Nityananda and Mahaprabhu met for the first time, Mahaprabhu knew that Nitai had arrived at Nandanacharya's house, and so he went there in the company of the devotees. In order to reveal Nityananda's glories, he had Srivas recite a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. You know which one? Yes. Can you say it?
This is where I forget it. Randram Venu or something.
Adara Sudhaya. Randran Venur Adara Sudhaya. Purayan Gopa Vrindayar. Vrindaranyan Swapata Ramanim Pravishad Gita Kirti.
Oh, they teach good things at Rutgers.
They teach good things at the Rutgers school. Where we have our guru.
Did you ever have to recite that in a drama?
Yes.
Ah, that's why. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Where does this verse come from?
From Kopiki, right?
No.
No?
Venugit.
Venugit, that's what I meant.
Yes.
I meant Venugit.
And it's considered what? According to Gurudev's introduction to the Venugit,
Best expression of Krishna's beauty.
yeah, of his beauty, best description anywhere of the beautiful form of Krishna. So, here, in order to reveal Lord Nityananda's glories, then Mahaprabhu told Srivas, recite a verse from the Bhagavatam. Then he recited this verse. And here's the translation of the verse. Krishna, whose glories are sung to the world by the cowherd boys, he dressed as a dancing performer. a peacock feather decorating his top knot, Karnikara flowers behind his ears, a golden cloth covering his body, and a victory garland around his neck, entering Vrinda's forest, the pleasure garden of his auspiciously marked feet, while filling the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips. Kind of a poetic rendition. As soon as Nityananda Prabhu heard the verse, what happened? Do you know, Damodar? There's quite an incredible description of that incident in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. As soon as Nityananda Prabhu heard the verse, he fainted, and the 8 ecstatic symptoms appeared on his body. Vishwambar clasped Nityananda to his bosom. This is from Chaitanya Bhagavat. You don't go more here, but you have to read that section. How Nityananda Prabhu continuously began jumping up and down, crashing to the ground. The only thing that made him calm, all the devotees were trying to hold him. Only when Mahaprabhu embraced him, then he became calm. Now one day, Mahaprabhu indicated that he wished to perform Vyas Puja ceremony for Nityananda, and preparations for it were made at Srivasa's house. Now, why did he want to perform a Vyas Puja ceremony for Nityananda Prabhu?
You wanted all the devotees to understand the position of Nityananda Prabhu?
Yeah, that was one, but not the main reason. Because what is the Vyas Puja? What does, in the Vedic culture, on their calendar, what is called Vyas Puja? It's also called Guru Purnima, right? And Gurudev that's one of his very prominent days of the year where he would come back to, Mathura from wherever he was traveling, and he would observe Guru Purnima Day by personally sitting in the temple room, and thousands of devotees would be ushered up the stairs, and they would put dividing ropes and stuff, for the crowds of people to, in an orderly way, come up the stairs and then go into the temple room and come directly and meet with Gurudev. And he would greet thousands of devotees on that day. So what is Guru Purnima Day according to the Hindu culture? The day of what? Yes, the appearance day of Srila Vyasadeva, who is considered to be the original Guru in the disciplic line. So he wanted that Nityananda Prabhu, because Nityananda Prabhu was senior. It is said that, of course, he had met Sri Madhavendra Puripad, but he also met his guru, Madhavendra Puripad's guru, Lakshmipati Tirtha. So Nityananda, right from the very beginning, Mahaprabhu had a very reverential and respectful attitude to Nityananda Prabhu, who was also at least about 8 years older than Mahaprabhu. So now that he had appeared in Navadvip Dham, this day came, Vyas Puja Day, and Mahaprabhu wanted that Nityananda Prabhu would lead this day and in the various rituals and so forth. So it was decided that the preparations for this observance would be made at Srivas Thakur's house. Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhar Vikagidari Shri Shri Radha Govinda Jiyakidari Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudhasha. And it didn't say here yet, but That's where Nityananda Prabhu was staying, at the house of Srivas Thakur. So, on the eve of the ceremony, when the Adivas Kirtan was being sung, then Mahaprabhu himself became absorbed by the spirit of Baladev, thus revealing that Nityananda was Balaram. And then he called out Advaita's name, Nara, Nara, which means one who makes something move. That's the meaning of this name, Nara. Nara, Nara. One who makes something move. And why did he call that out as Advaita Acharya? Revealing how he had made him descend by his prayers. One who makes someone move. That means Krishna moving from Goloka to here. Now, on the following day, as Nityananda started to perform the Vyas Puja, he placed a garland, offering this garland on Mahaprabhu's head. Now, we've heard Gurudev tell this many times, that he was hesitating. He's holding the garland, Nityananda, and Mahaprabhu, Vishwambar, is trying to coax him. Oh, Nityananda, now please offer the garland to the deity, because they had some, like in the sacrificial arena, they had an indication that how they made Vyasadeva. And this garland was supposed to be offered to Vyasadeva. But Nityananda Prabhu is holding the garland, and when Mahaprabhu would tell him, so now please place the garland, what would he do? No, what would he do when Mahaprabhu was saying that to him? Gurudev would say, he would go, In other words, he wasn't following that. And then Mahaprabhu was, but, Nityananda, why are you not putting the garland? And everybody's watching. And again he goes, And then suddenly everyone watches as Nityananda Prabhu puts the garland on Mahaprabhu's head. Why? Because, first of all, who is Nityananda? Balaram. Who is Vyasadeva? In comparison even with Nityananda, Balaram. He's a very, very distant expansion. Yes? Balaram, Mahasankarshan, then Mul Sankarshan, then Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, Kiradakshay Vishnu, and from Kiradakshay Vishnu, various incarnations, Vyasadeva is an empowered Shaktivesh avatar. So, but Nityananda is thinking of who is Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is the source of all incarnations. So Nityananda Prabhu decided that on this Vyasa Puja day, Mahaprabhu will be the object of everyone's worship. So that's what took place. And then on the following day, as Nityananda started to perform the Vyas Puja, he placed a garland offering on Mahaprabhu's head. Mahaprabhu immediately gave Nityananda a vision of a six-armed form, Sadbhuj. Then Srivas Pandit, in the role of the ceremony's acharya, had placed the garland in Nityananda's hand and told him to offer it to Vyasadeva while chanting the appropriate mantras. But Nityananda put it on Mahaprabhu's head instead. And at the end of the Vyas Puja, Mahaprabhu ordered the devotees to engage in kirtan. And as the holy names were being sung, he himself asked Srivas for the prasad, which he then personally distributed to all the devotees, as well as to Srivasa's servants. Everyone ate the offerings with great pleasure. When Mahaprabhu saw Srivasa's devotion to Nityananda, he blessed him that the goddess of fortune would remain forever kind to his household, and that even the dogs and the cats of his home would have enduring devotion for the Lord. So now is the section called Kirtan at Srivas Angan. Yes, we've gone to Srivas Angan many times. That's the house of Srivas. And it says in Navadvita Mahatmya, when Nityananda Prabhu was bringing Jiva Goswami, how many meters exactly is Srivas Angan from the Yogpit, like that? And then from there, a very short distance to Advaitacharya, his house, and Gadadhar Pandit's house. So, at Mahaprabhu's desire, his Sankirtan pastimes began in the house of Srivas, with only his intimate associates being present. This began on an Ekadasi, with Mahaprabhu revealing many transformations of love as soon as the chanting began. We have this song in our songbook. Begins Shri Hari Vasade Hari Kirtana Vidan. This is the description of the Kirtan on Ekadasi day, the very beginning day that Mahaprabhu inaugurated Sankirtan in the house of Srivas Thakur. It says here, Shri Hari Vasade Hari Kirtana Vidan Nitya Rambila Prabhu Jagatera Pran Punyavanta Srivas Angane Subharamba Uttila Kirtana Dvani Gopala Govinda. So the scriptural injunction is that one should engage in Hari Kirtan on Ekadasi evening, also known as Hari Vasara. On this night, Mahaprabhu, the life of the world, began to dance. This auspicious beginning for the Sankirtan movement took place in the pious Srivasa's courtyard, where the singing of Krishna's names, Gopal and Govinda, rose to the sky. Mahaprabhu ordered that the doors should remain closed, and those wicked and hard-hearted persons who were refused entry, they began to criticize Mahaprabhu and his devotees. Then Mahaprabhu's followers ignored their insults and continued to ecstatically sing the holy names. And just as the long night of the Ras Leela seemed to the gopis to last only a few moments, the nights of Kirtan at Srivasa's house seemed brief to Mahaprabhu and his followers. At the end of one such night, Mahaprabhu placed all the Shalagram Shilas on his lap, and he sat down on the altar, where he revealed a wonderful form showing his divine nature, and accepted all the food offerings given him by his devotees. On another occasion, Mahaprabhu engaged in his Mahaprakash Leela, the pastime of the Great Epiphany. That's how it's translated, Mahaprakash, the pastime of the Great Epiphany. On that occasion, he withdrew his devotional mood as well as his divine trances, and he openly revealed his divine glories, sitting on Vishnu's throne for how many hours? 21 hours. At his signal, the devotees performed the Abhishek ceremony, reserved for the King of Kings according to the scriptural regulations. The devotees made their offerings of flowers and gifts, and Mahaprabhu stretched out his feet and accepted them without artifice. He then gave each person present a blessing fulfilling their personal desires. In the course of this 21-hour, it's called Sat Praharya pastime of the Great Epiphany, Mahaprakash Leela, Mahaprabhu appeared in the forms of all the previous avatars. This is recounted in chapter 9 of Chaitanya Bhagavat's Madhya Kanda. One evening, Srivas's mother-in-law hid in a corner of the courtyard from where she hoped to be able to see the Lord's Sankirtan pastimes. And being the indweller of all beings, the Lord was aware of her presence and kept repeating to his companions that on that day he felt no joy in the singing of the holy name. This was very disquieting to the devotees, who began to suspect that some outsider might be hiding in Srivasangan, and they made a search. When he found his mother-in-law, Srivas was mortified, and taking her by the hair, led her out of the courtyard. Only those who have received the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have the right to witness his pastimes. On another occasion, a certain brahmachari who subsisted on milk alone, he asked Srivas for permission to see Mahaprabhu's kirtan. Srivas knew that he was very sattvic in his habits, and so he invited him in. Srivas had the brahmachari hide inside the house. But Mahaprabhu, the indweller of all beings, was well aware of what was taking place, and he said, "I don't know what is wrong with the kirtan today. I am feeling no pleasure. I think that there must be an outsider here somewhere." Then Srivas became afraid, and he said, "A brahmachari who takes only milk. He asked if he could watch you dance. He was so eager, and I knew him to be austere, so I let him in." Then Mahaprabhu became angry, and he answered, "If one doesn't surrender to Krishna simply by eating a milk diet and doing other superficial austerities, one cannot attain devotion to Krishna. Make him leave." Then the Brahmin fearfully left the house, but still he asked if he could have a partial look at the Lord. Then the most merciful Lord called him to his side and placed his lotus feet on his head, telling him not to be proud and make a show of his austere practices. And when Mahaprabhu put on a play, so that's that pastime, Mahaprabhu showed so much mercy because he had some pride. I drink only milk. I'm so austere. So that's how Mahaprabhu changed his heart. Imagine that. Called him back, placed his lotus feet on his head, said, "Don't be proud." When Mahaprabhu put on a play about his Vrindavan pastimes at Chandrasekhar Acharya's house in Mayapur, then Srivas played the part of Narad Muni, and Advaita took on the role of the clown, or the Vidusaka, and Haridas Thakur was the police officer. So Mahaprabhu himself first played Rukmini, and then the Adya Shakti, the source of all Shaktis. He played that role, while Nityananda played the part of an old woman. Later, of course, the Lord again sat on the altar in the mood of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, and later as the mother of the universe, in which mood he gave his devotees his breast to drink from, in a spirit of affection for them. Now, there's a section called Offenses to Srivas. Mahaprabhu's kirtans at Srivas's house went on every night for a full year, with the doors locked. During this time, many non-devotee Brahmins tried to make fun of Mahaprabhu and his associates. There were several of these pashandis who because they were unable to see what was going on, they were envious and they insulted the devotees. One of them was a Bhattacharya Brahmin named Gopal Chapal, who decided to destroy Srivasa's reputation by placing a plate of offerings intended for Kali on his doorstep. These included liquor and meat, red hibiscus, jaba pool flowers, red sandalwood, etc. In the morning, when Srivas opened the door, he saw these items and he started to laugh. He loudly proclaimed, "Look, everyone, I am a Shakta. I have been worshipping the goddess all night long." His better behaved neighbors were pained to see what had taken place, and they removed the offending items, and they threw them away and then purified the doorstep with cow dung. And as a result of this offense to the Vaishnava, Gopal Chapal became afflicted with leprosy. One day when Mahaprabhu came to the banks of the Ganga to take a bath, Gopal Chapal approached him and prayed to be free from his disease. Then Mahaprabhu angrily answered him, "O sinner, enemy of the devotees, I will not save you. I will have you eaten by worms like this for 1,000,000 births. You made it seem as though Srivas had worshipped Bhavani, so you will dwell in the hell known as Raurava for 1,000,000 lifetimes." When Mahaprabhu took sannyas, he came to Kulia, the site where offenses are forgiven. Kulia is the present-day town of Navadvip, also known as Koladvip. This time, when Gopal Chapal begged him again to be forgiven, Mahaprabhu was compassionate and told him to ask forgiveness of Srivas Pandit. One has to ask forgiveness of the very devotee one has offended if one wishes to be freed of the offense. When Srivas had forgiven Gopal Chapal, he was liberated from the effects of his offense. The unfortunate Devananda Pandit, though a great instructor in the Srimad Bhagavatam, was devoid of devotion. And one day, Srivas Pandit went to listen to him lecture, and being a great devotee, he was deeply affected by the Bhagavat's verses. He started to cry in the midst of the assembly. Devananda's students, all of whom were Pashandis, they forcibly dragged Srivas outside for disturbing the audience. Even though he saw his students acting in this way, Devananda did nothing to stop them. Thus, he too became an offender to the Vaishnavas. Mahaprabhu later roundly rebuked Devananda for his inaction on this occasion. Later on, Devananda had the good fortune to come into the association of Rakeshwara Pandit, who taught him Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's true identity. He thus became sorry for the offense that he had committed, and he received Mahaprabhu's mercy. In Braj Leela, Devananda is Nanda Maharaja's court Pandit, Bandari Muni. Mahaprabhu was always Amani Manada. That means he asked for no honors for himself, but always showed respects to others. He would embrace everyone, and with great feeling, he would ask them to chant the names of the Lord. Then everyone would engage in the loud chanting of the holy names of Mridanga and conch shells. Materialistic persons considered them to be nothing other than musicians who were worshipping Mahamaya, who were worshipping Mahamaya on the wrong day, and they would insult them with various blasphemous statements. Who was? The materialistic persons. So as they were so doing, one day, the local magistrate, the Qazi, was walking by, and he saw the scene. Hearing the loud noise of the kirtan, he became irritated and angry. He went to Srivasa's house, and he broke the mridanga, and he had some of the devotees beaten as a warning. He said, if anyone does this Sankirtan again, he will be punished even more severely. The Qazi then went with some of these malicious townspeople, forbidding the performance of Sankirtan. This brought great satisfaction to all the Pashandis of the town, and they joyfully continued to mock the devotees. When Mahaprabhu heard of the incident, he became very angry. He ordered the devotees to take torches and musical instruments and to join him without fear. He separated the devotees into several groups, and then he led the procession along the banks of the Ganga, himself dancing at its head. Thousands of men, women, and children put aside their homework to join him and follow the Sankirtan procession. When the miscreants heard the sound of the kirtan, their hearts began to tremble. Meanwhile, when Sirajudin Chandkazi heard these thousands of Hindus were coming towards his house, he was frightened and he ran to hide inside. Upon his arrival, Mahaprabhu asked some gentle persons to affectionately inform the Qazi that he was there. And when the Qazi heard the polite way in which Mahaprabhu called to him, he was attracted and he came outside. He addressed Mahaprabhu as nephew, since by village relationship he was Nilambar Chakravarti's brother. So after a few moments of cordial conversation, the Qazi recounted the following story, and he told, "On the night after I broke the mridanga, I had a dream in which I saw a most frightening figure, half man, half lion, sitting on my chest and threatening to rend it asunder in the way that I had broken the drum. And when he saw that I was afraid, he calmed me down and he told me that he would forgive me if I promised never to interfere with kirtan again." The Qazi then showed the scratch marks which had been imprinted on his chest by Nrsingadev's claws. Chandkazi then promised that neither he nor anyone from his family would ever stop Sankirtan again. He became Mahaprabhu's devotee. The tomb of Chandkazi is in Bamanpukur, by which there stands a very old Goloka Champa tree. Both Hindus and Muslims offered their respects to the tomb of the Chandkazi. So, we don't have further time, but just to give you an idea, there's more kirtan pastimes in Srivas Angan section. Then Srivas Pandit visits to Jagannath Puri, and then Srivas moves to Kumarahata. Those are the three final sections of this biography, because he couldn't tolerate the sannyas of Mahaprabhu, so he could no longer live in Navadvip, and he moved to Kumarahata. So in this way, Srivas Pandit's appearance day is the 8th day of the waning moon in the month of Chaitra, and his disappearance day is celebrated on the 10th day of the waning moon in Asar. Gaur Premanande, Jai Shri Srivas Thakur Ki Jai, Jai Shri Narada Avatar Srivasa Pandit Ki Jai, Shri Pancha Tattva Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bhivacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo.
Is tomorrow Katha?
Wednesday.
No.